The day Deshaun Chambers threw my clothes onto my front lawn, I was standing in my kitchen making peach cobbler from my mama's recipe. I heard him before I saw him, his heavy boots stomping up the stairs like thunder, shaking the pictures on the walls. Pictures of me and my late husband Raymond on our wedding day. Pictures of my daughter Tamika in her Easter dress. Pictures of this house when we first bought it in 1983, back when the neighborhood was full of families who looked out for each other. "Miss Lorraine," he shouted, and I could hear the disrespect dripping from his voice like poison. He burst into the kitchen, his face twisted up in anger. "I told you we need to talk. Now!" I wiped my hands on my apron, the one with the sunflowers that Raymond bought me for our 30th anniversary. "Deshaun, I'm in the middle of— I don't care what you're in the middle of." He stepped closer, invading my space in a way that made my heart pound. "This stops today. All of it. You living here like you own the place. Getting in our way, making Tamika feel guilty every time we want to have a private moment in our own home." "Your own home?" The words came out before I could stop them. His eyes went cold. "That's right. Our home. And it's time for you to go." Before I could respond, my daughter Tamika appeared in the doorway. My baby girl. The child I'd rocked to sleep 1,000 nights, walked to her first day of school, cheered for at every dance recital. She wouldn't look at me, just stared at the floor like there was something fascinating about those old linoleum tiles. "Tamika?" My voice cracked. "Baby, what's going on?" She finally looked up, and her eyes were strangers to me. "Mama, Deshaun and I have been talking. We think it's time you found your own place. Maybe one of those senior apartments over on Madison Street. They're real nice. They have bingo on Thursdays." The peach cobbler started to burn. I could smell it, but I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. "Pack your things," Deshaun said, and his voice was final as a judge's gavel. "You got 2 hours. That's when I realized. They'd planned this. Picked a Sunday afternoon when church was over and the neighbors were inside having dinner. When no one would see. No one would know. I watched through the window as Deshaun made 4 trips, carrying my belongings outside like they were trash. My clothes landed in the hydrangea bushes Raymond planted. My photo albums hit the driveway, scattering memories across the concrete. My mother's quilt, the one she made by hand during the Depression, got thrown on top of the pile like it was nothing. Tamika stood on the porch with her arms crossed, guarding the door like I was a stranger trying to break in. I walked outside, each step feeling like my legs were filled with concrete. "Where am I supposed to go?" I asked, and I hated how small my voice sounded. "That's not our problem anymore," Deshaun said. He was already turning back toward the house, my house, like I'd already disappeared. "You've been a burden long enough. Tamika and I are trying to build a life here, and we can't do that with you hovering over us like some kind of ghost." "Mama, you'll figure it out," Tamika said, but she still wouldn't meet my eyes. "You're strong. You always figure things out." Then they went inside. I heard the deadbolt click. The sound echoed in my chest like a gunshot. I stood there on my own lawn, surrounded by the pieces of my life, and felt 70 years of dignity crumble into dust. The neighbors' curtains twitched. They were watching. Everyone was watching my shame play out like a Sunday matinee. But here's what Deshaun Chambers didn't know. What my own daughter had forgotten in her eagerness to play house with a man who sweet-talked his way into her life 2 years ago. When Raymond died and left me drowning in grief, when I'd let them move in temporarily to help with the bills, when I'd cooked their meals and watched them take over room after room until I was sleeping in what used to be the storage closet. Through all of that, there was one thing I never did. I never signed over the deed. Before we continue, please drop a comment if you've ever experienced something like this. We'd love to hear your story, and subscribe to the channel to help us grow. Let me take you back 6 months, So you understand how I ended up standing in my own yard like a refugee. Raymond's funeral was on a Tuesday. The church was packed. He'd been a deacon for 30 years, and everyone in the community knew him. My Raymond, who'd worked double shifts at the post office to buy this house, who'd kissed my forehead every morning for 43 years, who'd promised me we'd grow old together in the home we built. Brain aneurysm. One minute he was laughing at something on TV, the next minute he was gone. No warning, no goodbye, just gone. After the funeral, I couldn't be in that house alone. Every corner held a memory that cut like glass. His reading chair by the window, his coffee mug still in the cabinet, his cologne still hanging in the air of our bedroom. The silence was so loud it made my ears ring. Tamika had been living in a cramped apartment across town with Deshawn. They'd been dating for about a year at that point. I didn't know much about him except he worked in sales, whatever that meant, and he always had a ready smile and a smooth answer for everything. "Mama, let us move in for a while," Tamika had said at the repast, holding my hand while people filed through with their casseroles and condolences. "Just until you get back on your feet. You shouldn't be alone right now." It seemed like the answer to a prayer. My baby girl coming home, helping me through the grief. I said yes without thinking twice. They moved in that weekend. 2 suitcases each, they said. Temporary, they said. Just until I felt better, they said. The first month was okay. Tamika cooked with me, and we'd cry together over old photos. Deshawn was polite enough, always calling me Miss Lorraine, and offering to help with yard work. He fixed the leaky faucet in the bathroom, replaced the broken step on the front porch. I thought maybe I'd judged him too quickly. Maybe he was good for my daughter after all. The second month, things shifted. More of their belongings appeared. Boxes in the garage, their furniture in the living room. My couch, the one Raymond and I had picked out together, ended up in the basement because Deshawn said their sectional fit the space better. "It's just temporary, Mama," Tamika assured me. "We're saving up for our own place." "This helps us both, right?" I wanted to believe her. I needed to believe her. By the 3rd month, I barely recognized my own home. Deshawn had opinions about everything. The thermostat was too high, the TV was too loud, I cooked too much food, I left lights on, I used the wrong detergent. Every day brought a new complaint, a new rule, a new way I was doing something wrong in the house I'd lived in for 40 years. Tamika started backing him up. "Mama, you do leave the lights on." "Mama, maybe you should ask before you have your church friends over." "Mama, we need our privacy." I started making myself smaller, quieter. I ate dinner in my room, stopped inviting my friends from church, apologized for existing in my own space. Month 4, Deshawn stopped working. Said he got laid off, but he never seemed stressed about finding another job. He slept until noon, played video games until midnight, and snapped at me if I made noise doing laundry or washing dishes. "Your mother's getting on my nerves," I heard him tell Tamika one night. Their bedroom was right next to mine, and the walls were thin. "She's always there, always watching, always judging. I can't relax in my own home." "Your home?" I whispered to the darkness. But Tamika didn't correct him. Month 5, I was doing all the cooking, all the cleaning, paying all the bills. Deshawn would leave his dishes on the counter, track mud through the house, drink the last of the orange juice, and put the empty carton back in the refrigerator. When I mentioned it, gently, so gently, he exploded. "You know what your problem is, Miss Lorraine? You can't let go of the past. This house, all this old furniture, these old ways of doing things. Tamika and I are trying to build a future, and you're stuck in 1985. Tamika stood there wringing her hands, torn between us. But when push came to shove, she chose him. She always chose him. By month 6, I was sleeping in the storage closet. They'd taken over the master bedroom, my bedroom, where Raymond died, and converted my old room into a home office for Deshawn's business ventures. When I protested, Deshawn got in my face. "You're lucky we let you stay here at all, old woman." You should be grateful we're taking care of you instead of sticking you in a nursing home where you belong." That's when I knew. He didn't see this as my house anymore. He saw it as his. And my daughter, my own flesh and blood, had convinced herself that this was normal, that this was right. I started keeping the property deed in my purse. I'd take it out at night and trace Raymond's signature with my finger. He'd put both our names on it, making sure I'd always be protected. "Nobody can ever take this from you, Lorraine," he'd said. "This is yours. Always." I thought about showing it to them, but something told me to wait, to watch, to see just how far they'd go. Now I know. They'd go all the way to throwing me out on the street. I was still standing in the yard trying to figure out my next move when I heard a car pull up. A silver Cadillac that I recognized immediately. My best friend Vera had been checking on me more often lately, worried about the way things were going. "Lorraine?" Vera got out of her car, her face shifting from confusion to horror as she took in the scene. "Baby? What in the world happened here?" That's when I finally broke. 40 years of strength, of holding my head high through every storm, and it all came crashing down. I collapsed into Vera's arms and cried like I was 6 years old instead of 67. "They kicked me out," I sobbed. "My own daughter. They kicked me out of my own house." Vera held me tight, and I could feel her body trembling with rage. "Come on," she said. "You're coming home with me, right now. We're going to figure this out." As she helped me gather my scattered belongings, I saw the curtain move in the front window. Deshaun was watching, probably making sure I left, probably celebrating his victory. He looked so smug, so certain. He had no idea what was coming. That night, sitting in Vera's guest room, surrounded by trash bags full of my life, I made a phone call. To a lawyer I'd known for years, a woman named Cassandra Wright, who went to my church and had handled Raymond's will. She answered on the third ring. "Cassandra," I said, my voice steady for the first time all day. "I need your help, and I need you to come over first thing tomorrow morning. Bring everything you have on my property deed." There was a pause. "Lorraine, are you okay? You sound—" "I'm about to be better than okay," I said, and I surprised myself with the steel in my voice. "I'm about to teach 2 people a lesson about respecting their elders, and about the law." When I hung up, Vera was standing in the doorway with 2 cups of tea and a look of fierce pride on her face. "That's the Lorraine I know," she said. "Now, what's the plan?" I took the tea, feeling warmth spread through my chest that had nothing to do with the temperature. "The plan is simple. They want my house? They can have it, right up until the sheriff serves them with an eviction notice. Let's see how Deshaun likes being thrown out on the street." "You still own it?" Vera's eyes went wide. "Girl, you mean to tell me—" "Every brick, every floorboard, every inch of that property is legally mine. Raymond made sure of it, and Deshaun's about to find out that you can't steal what was never yours to take." Vera started laughing, and after a moment, I joined her. It felt good. It felt right. Outside, the sun was setting on the worst day of my life, but somewhere in my chest, I could feel the sunrise coming. And when it did, there was going to be hell to pay. Deshaun Chambers had just made the biggest mistake of his life, and he didn't even know it yet. Cassandra Wright showed up at Vera's house at 8:30 Monday morning with a leather briefcase and the kind of smile that meant somebody was about to get what they deserved. She was in her early 50s, sharp as a tack, and had a reputation for not losing cases, especially when it came to protecting elderly folks from family who tried to take advantage. "Lorraine," she said, giving me a hug that felt like armor wrapping around me. "Vera filled me in on the basics. Now tell me everything and don't leave out a single detail." We sat at Vera's kitchen table, and I told her the whole story, how they'd moved in temporarily, how it turned into 6 months of disrespect and displacement, how Deshaun had thrown me out like yesterday's garbage. I showed her photos I'd taken of my belongings scattered across the lawn, Vera had the presence of mind to tell me to document everything before we left. Cassandra listened, taking notes, her jaw getting tighter with every word. When I finished, she opened her briefcase and pulled out a folder. "I pulled your property records this morning," she said. "The house at 417 Oakmont Drive is registered solely in your name. After Raymond passed, the title transferred completely to you as the surviving spouse. There's no joint ownership, no lease agreement, nothing that gives Deshawn or Tamika any legal claim to that property." "So I can get them out?" My hands were shaking as I held my coffee cup. "Better than that. We can have them arrested for illegal eviction if you want to press charges. What they did yesterday, throwing you out without proper notice, without legal authority, that's a crime in this state. But here's what I suggest." She leaned forward, and her eyes had that glint lawyers get when they see justice on the horizon. "We do this by the book. We file for an immediate eviction order, citing illegal lockout and unlawful occupancy. I can have the sheriff serve them papers by this afternoon. They'll have 48 hours to vacate the premises." 48 hours, I repeated, and the words tasted like sweet tea on a hot day. "And here's the beautiful part," Cassandra continued. "Since they illegally evicted you, the legal property owner, we can also sue for damages. Emotional distress, displacement costs, loss of use of your property. We're talking real money, Lorraine. Enough to make sure they think twice before they ever disrespect anyone again." Vera slammed her hand on the table. "That's what I'm talking about! Make them pay!" "How much is this going to cost me?" I asked. I had Raymond's life insurance money, but I'd been careful with it, knowing I needed it to last. "For you? Not a dime up front. We'll take it from the settlement." Cassandra smiled. "Plus, I go to your church, remember? This one's personal. Nobody treats our elders this way, not on my watch." I felt tears prickling my eyes again, but this time they were different. These were tears of relief, of righteous anger finally having a place to go. "Let's do it," I said. "Let's show them what happens when you forget where you come from." By 2:00 that afternoon, Deputy Marcus Johnson, who'd grown up 3 houses down from me and used to cut my grass as a teenager, pulled up to my house in his patrol car. I'd wanted to be there when they got served, but Cassandra advised against it. "Let them think you've just disappeared," she'd said. "Let them get comfortable. The shock will be even better." So Vera and I sat in her car down the street, watching. Cassandra had called to let us know the timing, and we couldn't help ourselves. We needed to see this. Marcus walked up to the front door, my front door, and knocked 3 times, official and loud. I could see Deshawn's shadow through the window. He took his time answering, probably annoyed at being interrupted during his afternoon video games. When he opened the door, Marcus handed him the papers. Even from down the street, I could see the confusion on Deshawn's face morph into disbelief, then shock, then pure rage. He started yelling, waving the papers around. Marcus stood there calm as Sunday morning, letting Deshawn wear himself out. Then Tamika appeared in the doorway, and Marcus handed her a set of papers too. My daughter's face went pale as fresh snow. "Oh, this is better than cable TV," Vera muttered, gripping my hand. Marcus said something else, probably explaining the 48-hour timeline, and then he walked back to his patrol car. Professional, by the book, exactly the way it should be done. Deshawn threw the papers on the ground and kicked them. Tamika picked them up, reading frantically, her hand over her mouth. "Good," I said quietly. "Now you know how it feels." Vera drove me back to her house. My phone started ringing around 3:00. "Tamika." I let it go to voicemail. It rang again, and again. By the 5th call, I listened to her message. "Mama, what did you do?" Her voice was panicked, shrill. "The sheriff came and said we have to leave in 2 days. They said you filed eviction papers. That's crazy, Mama. This is our home. You can't just—" A pause, and I could hear Deshawn yelling in the background. "You need to call this off right now. This is family. You don't do this to family." I deleted the message. The next call came from a number I didn't recognize. Against my better judgment, I answered. "You selfish old witch!" Deshawn's voice exploded through the speaker so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. After everything we did for you. We took you in when you had nobody. We let you stay in our house, and this is how you repay us? By calling the cops like we're criminals? It's my house, Deshawn, I said, and my voice was calm, cold. Always has been, always will be. That's bull, and you know it. Raymond's gone. That house belongs to his family now. I am his family. I was his wife for 43 years, and my name is the only name on that deed. Silence. Then, you're making a big mistake, old woman. You think you can just throw us out? You think there won't be consequences? The only mistake made here was you thinking you could take what wasn't yours. You've got 48 hours, Deshawn. I suggest you start packing. I hung up. My hands were shaking, but it felt good. It felt powerful. He threatened you, Vera said, her face concerned. Lorraine, we need to tell Cassandra. Already texting her, I said, typing out the conversation while it was fresh in my mind. Everything documented, everything by the book. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Tamika, my baby girl. How did we get here? How did she become someone who would choose a man over her own mother? Someone who would watch me get thrown out and feel nothing? Around midnight, my phone buzzed. A text from a number I recognized. My grandbaby, Jasmine. She was 17, Tamika's daughter from a previous relationship. Smart as a whip, and the one good thing that made me think my daughter still had some sense left. Grandma, are you okay? Mom is freaking out and won't tell me what's going on. Deshawn is breaking stuff and yelling. I'm scared. My heart clenched. I'd been so focused on getting revenge, I hadn't thought about Jasmine caught in the middle of this war. I called her immediately. She answered on the first ring, her voice hushed. Grandma? Baby, I'm fine. I'm staying with Miss Vera. What do you mean he's breaking stuff? He punched a hole in the living room wall. He's saying you're trying to steal the house from them. Mom keeps crying and saying she doesn't understand what's happening. Grandma, did they really kick you out yesterday? Mom said you left on your own. The lies. Of course there were lies. Jasmine, honey, I need you to listen to me carefully. Deshawn threw me out yesterday, put all my belongings on the lawn and told me I had 2 hours to leave. Your mama stood there and let it happen. I heard her sharp intake of breath. She said you wanted to move out, that you'd found a senior apartment. She lied, baby. And now they're being evicted because that house is in my name. It's always been in my name. They had no right to kick me out. Oh my God, Jasmine's voice cracked. Grandma, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I've been at my friend's house all weekend studying for exams. I didn't see. It's not your fault, sweetheart. None of this is your fault. But I need to know, are you safe? Is he getting violent? He hasn't touched me or Mom, just yelling and breaking things. But Grandma, I don't want to be here anymore. He's scary when he gets like this. Pack a bag, I said immediately. Do it quietly. Tomorrow after school, you come straight to Miss Vera's house. You remember where she lives? Yes, ma'am. Good girl. And Jasmine, don't tell your mama or Deshawn. This stays between us. After we hung up, Vera looked at me with approval. That's right. Save that baby. She doesn't deserve to be in the middle of their mess. She's the only one who still has sense, I said. The only one who didn't forget what family really means. Tuesday morning, Cassandra called with an update. Deshawn contacted a lawyer, tried to claim squatters' rights and tenant protections. His lawyer laughed him out of the office once he saw the documentation. They have no case, Lorraine. None. The eviction stands. What about Tamika? Has she tried to reach out? Through her lawyer, yes. She's asking for an extension. Claims they need time to find housing. But here's the thing. They've been living there 6 months rent-free. They've had plenty of time to save money and find their own place. The judge isn't going to be sympathetic. Good, I said. And I meant it. That afternoon, I went to church for the Tuesday prayer service. I hadn't been in almost 2 weeks. Deshawn always made it difficult, complaining about being left alone or needing the car, or making some crisis that required my attention right when I was about to leave. When I walked through those doors, it felt like coming home. The small group of elders who met every Tuesday for prayer and Bible study looked up, and Sister Patricia rushed over to hug me. "Lorraine, we've been worried about you. Where have you been?" I told them. Everything. The whole congregation of 12 elderly prayer warriors listened with increasing outrage and decreasing Christian charity toward my daughter and son-in-law. "That boy needs more than eviction," Brother James said, shaking his head. "He needs an old-fashioned attitude adjustment." "We should have known something was wrong when you stopped coming," Sister Patricia said, holding my hand. "We thought you were just grieving Raymond, but this is spiritual warfare, baby. That man has a demon of greed and disrespect." Pastor Leonard, who'd known me since Tamika was in diapers, looked troubled. "Lorraine, I'm sorry we didn't check on you more. We failed you." "You didn't know," I said. "I was too ashamed to tell anyone, too embarrassed that my own daughter would treat me this way." "Well, we know now," Sister Patricia declared. "And we're going to surround you with prayer and protection. If you need anything, and I mean anything, you call us, day or night." The prayer they prayed over me that afternoon was powerful. Hands laid on my shoulders. Voices calling on God for justice, for restoration, for protection. When it was over, I felt stronger than I had in months. Stronger than I'd felt since Raymond died. I wasn't alone. I'd never been alone. Wednesday morning, moving day, I woke up with purpose. Cassandra had arranged for me to be there at noon when the sheriff came to supervise the eviction. I put on my best church dress, the royal blue one with the matching hat. Did my makeup careful and precise. If I was going to reclaim my home, I was going to look like the queen I was. Vera drove me over at 11:30. There was a U-Haul truck in the driveway, half loaded with furniture. My furniture, I realized. They were trying to steal my belongings along with my dignity. Deputy Marcus was already there, along with another officer I didn't know. Cassandra pulled up right behind us, looking fierce in her power suit. "Remember," she said as we walked up to the house together. "Stay calm. Don't engage. Let the law handle this." I nodded, but my heart was pounding like a drum solo. The front door was open. I could hear Deshawn and Tamika arguing inside, the sound carrying through the screen door. "Should have known she'd pull something like this. You said your mama was weak, that she wouldn't fight back." "I didn't think she had the deed still. Daddy always handled everything." "Well, she has it, and now we're being thrown out like dogs." I walked through my front door with my head held high, flanked by Cassandra and 2 sheriff's deputies. The arguing stopped instantly. Deshawn and Tamika stood in the middle of the living room, surrounded by half-packed boxes. They both looked like they hadn't slept. Good. "Miss Lorraine," Deputy Marcus said formally, "as the legal property owner, you have the right to be present during this eviction. These individuals have until 5 p.m. today to remove their personal belongings from the premises." "Wait," Tamika said, stepping forward. Her eyes were red and swollen from crying. "Mama, please, we can work this out. Just give us more time." "You had 6 months," I said quietly. 6 months to save money, to find your own place, to treat me with basic respect. You chose to do none of those things." "But where are we supposed to go?" she wailed. "We don't have anywhere." "That's not my problem anymore," I said, and the words felt like steel on my tongue. "You made your choice when you stood on that porch and watched him throw me out like trash. Now you get to live with it." Deshawn's face went red. "You bitter old hag! You're doing this because you're jealous, because your husband is dead and we're still alive and happy?" "Deshawn Chambers." Cassandra's voice cut through like a blade. "I strongly suggest you stop talking before you make this worse for yourself. You're already facing a civil suit for illegal eviction and emotional distress. Would you like to add harassment and threats to that list?" He opened his mouth, then closed it. For once in his life, he didn't have a slick answer. The next 4 hours were simultaneously satisfying and heartbreaking. Watching them pack up and leave should have felt like pure victory. But every time I looked at Tamika, her shoulders slumped, her movements slow and defeated, I saw my baby girl, the child I'd raised, the daughter I'd loved with everything in me. How did we get here? Around 3 o'clock, Jasmine showed up. She'd come straight from school like I'd asked, her backpack on her shoulders and a small duffel bag in her hand. When she saw the scene, the U-Haul, the deputies, her mother crying while packing boxes, her face crumpled. "Grandma?" She ran to me, and I held her tight. "It's okay, baby. Everything's going to be okay." "Jasmine?" Tamika looked up from the box she was packing, confusion crossing her face. "What are you doing here? Why do you have a bag?" "I'm staying with Grandma," Jasmine said, her voice small but firm. I can't live with y'all anymore. Not after what you did to her." The look on Tamika's face nearly broke me. Pure shock, followed by betrayal, followed by a pain so deep I could feel it across the room. "You're taking my child?" she whispered. "Mama, you're really going to take my child from me?" "She's not taking me," Jasmine said, standing up straighter. "I'm choosing to go. There's a difference." Deshawn laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. "Of course. Turn the whole family against us. Is that your plan, Miss Lorraine? Destroy everything we've built?" "You destroyed it yourself," I said. "The moment you decided my house was yours. The moment you decided I was disposable. All I did was remind you of the truth." By 5 o'clock, the house was empty of their belongings. The U-Haul pulled away, followed by Tamika's car with both of them inside. She looked at me once through the window, a look full of hurt and confusion and anger, and then she was gone. Deputy Marcus handed me a new set of keys. "I had the locks changed, Miss Lorraine. Those old keys won't work anymore." "You're secure." "Thank you, Marcus. Tell your mama I said hello." "Yes, ma'am." He smiled. "She's proud of you, by the way. Says it's about time somebody stood up to that fool." When everyone left, it was just me, Jasmine, Vera, and Cassandra standing in my house. My empty house. All the furniture was gone. They'd taken everything that wasn't nailed down. "Well," Vera said, looking around at the bare rooms, "I guess we're going shopping this weekend." "I've got some furniture in storage," I said. "Raymond's and my original pieces, the ones I thought I'd never see again." Jasmine squeezed my hand. "I'll help you make it feel like home again, Grandma." I looked at this child, this wise, brave, beautiful child, and felt hope bloom in my chest. Maybe we could rebuild. Maybe this was a new beginning instead of just an ending. We were about to leave, planning to stay one more night at Vera's before moving back in, when my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered it on speaker. "You think you've won." Deshawn's voice was ice cold. No yelling this time. No rage. Something worse. Something calculated. "You think you're so smart, so powerful. But you just made an enemy, old woman, and I always settle my debts." The line went dead. Cassandra was already dialing. "I'm filing for a restraining order first thing tomorrow morning, and I'm sending this recording to the police." But as we locked up my house, my reclaimed, empty, hollow victory of a house, I couldn't shake the chill that ran down my spine. Because something in Deshawn's voice told me this war wasn't over. It was just beginning. The first brick came through my bedroom window at 2 a.m. on Friday. I was dreaming about Raymond, one of those good dreams where he's still alive and we're dancing in the kitchen, when the sound of shattering glass jerked me awake. Jasmine screamed from the guest room. I grabbed my phone and ran to her, pulling her close as we heard a car speed away outside. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely dial 911. "Someone threw a brick through my window," I told the dispatcher, trying to keep my voice steady for Jasmine's sake. "I think I know who did it." The police came within 10 minutes, found the brick on my bedroom floor surrounded by glass, with a note tied to it with rubber bands. Officer Jenkins, a young woman who looked barely older than Jasmine, read it with a grim expression. "This is just the beginning," she read aloud. "Ma'am, have you had any recent disputes or threats?" I showed her the recording of Deshawn's phone call, told her the whole story. By the time I finished, she was shaking her head in disgust. "We'll file a report and send it to the detective unit. With the eviction and the threats, this looks like retaliation. Do you have somewhere else you can stay tonight?" "No," I said firmly. Jasmine looked at me like I'd lost my mind, but I stood my ground. "I'm not leaving my house again. I just got it back." "Grandma," Jasmine started. "We'll be fine, baby. Officer Jenkins, can you increase patrols in this neighborhood?" "Yes, ma'am. And I strongly suggest getting security cameras installed. Today, if possible." After the police left, I couldn't sleep. Neither could Jasmine. We sat in the living room with all the lights on, jumping at every sound. Around 4 a.m., my phone rang. "Vera." "I couldn't sleep," she said. "Something told me to check on you. Are you okay?" I told her about the brick. She was at my door in 20 minutes with her son Carlton, who worked in security systems. By sunrise, he was installing cameras at every entrance of my house. "These link to your phone," Carlton explained, showing me the app. "You'll get alerts for any motion, and it records everything to the cloud, so even if someone destroys the cameras, you've still got the footage." "How much do I owe you?" I asked. "Nothing. This is family. Nobody messes with Miss Lorraine and gets away with it." Saturday morning, Cassandra called with news. "The restraining order was approved. Deshawn has to stay 500 feet away from you, your property, and Jasmine. If he violates it, he goes to jail immediately. I'm having a copy delivered to him today." "What about Tamika?" There was a pause. "She's not included in the restraining order unless you want her to be. But Lorraine, I think you should know. She filed for temporary custody of Jasmine. She's claiming you manipulated her daughter into leaving." My heart sank. "Can she do that?" "She can try. But Jasmine is 17, old enough to have a say in where she lives. And given that Tamika participated in your illegal eviction and that Jasmine witnessed domestic violence from Deshawn, let's just say I like our chances." The custody hearing was set for Wednesday. I had 4 days to prepare, 4 days of watching every shadow and jumping at every sound. The security cameras caught 3 more incidents: someone egging my house on Saturday night, someone trying my door handles on Sunday, and someone leaving a dead rat on my porch Monday morning. Every time, the footage was too grainy to make a positive ID. But I knew. We all knew. Tuesday afternoon, I was at the grocery store with Jasmine when I turned the corner and almost ran straight into Tamika. We both froze, our shopping carts between us like shields. She looked terrible. Thinner than she'd been a week ago, with dark circles under her eyes and her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. Nothing like the put-together daughter who used to take pride in her appearance. "Mama," she said, and her voice cracked. "Tamika!" We stood there in the cereal aisle while other shoppers moved around us, probably sensing the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. "I just want my daughter back," she said finally. "That's all. Please, Mama. Don't take her from me." "I didn't take her," I said quietly. "She chose to leave. There's a difference." "Because you turned her against me. You told her lies about what happened." "I told her the truth. Something you should have done from the beginning." Jasmine stepped between us, her young face older than it should be. "Mom, nobody turned me against you. I saw what you did. How you treated Grandma. How you let Deshawn disrespect her in her own house. I can't be around that." "Baby, please." Tamika reached for her, but Jasmine stepped back. "And the brick through the window? The dead rat on the porch? That's your boyfriend, Mom. That's who you chose over your own family." Tamika's face went pale. "What brick? What are you talking about?" "Don't play dumb," Jasmine said, and I heard the pain underneath her anger. "Deshawn's been terrorizing Grandma all week. You know it, and you're letting it happen." "I didn't." Tamika looked at me, and for the first time since this whole nightmare started, I saw genuine shock in her eyes. "Mama, I swear I didn't know. Deshaun said he was staying with a friend, working on getting us into an apartment. He hasn't. I didn't know he was doing that." "Does it matter?" I asked. "Whether you knew or not, you chose him. You chose a man who would throw your own mother out on the street. What did you think was going to happen?" She started crying right there in the store, big, heaving sobs that made other shoppers stare. Part of me wanted to comfort her. That's what 40 years of being a mother does to you. But a bigger part of me, the part that still hurt from being thrown out like trash, stayed right where I was. "Tomorrow in court," I said quietly, "you're going to have to explain to a judge why Jasmine is better off with you, with a man who's violent and vindictive, with someone who has no stable housing. You think about that." We left her there crying in the cereal aisle. Jasmine was quiet the whole drive home, staring out the window. "Do you think I'm being too hard on her?" she asked finally. "No, baby. I think you're being exactly as hard as the situation calls for. Your mama made her choices. Now she has to live with them." Wednesday morning, I put on my best suit, the burgundy one I saved for special occasions, and met Cassandra at the courthouse. The custody hearing was in family court, a place I'd never thought I'd see the inside of. Tamika was already there with a lawyer I didn't recognize, sitting on the opposite side of the hallway. She looked small and scared. Deshaun was nowhere in sight. He couldn't be there because of the restraining order. "Where is he?" I asked Cassandra. "Probably smart enough to stay away, but I have a feeling he's going to be the topic of conversation today." The judge was a black woman in her 60s named Judge Hamilton. She looked at all of us over her reading glasses with the expression of someone who'd seen every kind of family drama imaginable and had no patience for nonsense. "Let me see if I understand this correctly," she said after reviewing the files. "Ms. Tamika Chambers, you're seeking custody of your 17-year-old daughter Jasmine, who currently resides with her grandmother, Mrs. Lorraine Henderson. And the reason for this emergency custody hearing is—" Tamika's lawyer, a nervous young man who kept adjusting his tie, stood up. "Your Honor, my client believes that Mrs. Henderson manipulated the minor child into leaving the family home following a property dispute. Ms. Chambers is concerned about her daughter's well-being and wants her returned to parental custody." Judge Hamilton turned to me. "Mrs. Henderson, would you like to respond?" Cassandra stood, every inch the professional warrior. "Your Honor, I have evidence that tells a very different story. If I may?" For the next 30 minutes, Cassandra laid it all out. The illegal eviction, the photos of my belongings thrown on the lawn, the recording of Deshaun's threats, the police reports about the brick, the vandalism, the harassment. The security camera footage showing someone, identity unclear but strongly suspected to be Deshaun, repeatedly targeting my property. Judge Hamilton's expression got darker with each piece of evidence. "Ms. Chambers," she said when Cassandra finished, "did you participate in evicting your mother from her own home?" Tamika looked at her lawyer, who nodded. "Your Honor, there was a misunderstanding about the property ownership. That's not what I asked. Did you participate in removing your mother and her belongings from the house?" Silence. Then, quietly, "Yes, ma'am." "And your boyfriend, this Deshaun Chambers who's under a restraining order for threatening Mrs. Henderson, where is he now?" "I don't know, Your Honor. We've been staying in a motel and he comes and goes. So you have no stable housing. You're with a man who's been charged with harassment and vandalism, and you want me to order a 17-year-old girl to leave her grandmother's stable, safe home to live with you in a motel room?" Tamika's lawyer stood up. "Your Honor, Ms. Chambers is the biological mother, and Mrs. Henderson is the child's grandmother who has provided stability and protection. Not to mention she's the victim of what amounts to elder abuse from both your client and her boyfriend." Judge Hamilton turned to Jasmine, who was sitting beside me. "Young lady, how old are you?" 17, ma'am. I'll be 18 in 4 months." "And where do you want to live?" "With my grandma, Your Honor." She's the only one who's been looking out for me." Judge Hamilton nodded slowly, then wrote something on her papers. "Here's my ruling. Jasmine will remain in Mrs. Henderson's custody. Miss Chambers, you are granted supervised visitation, 2 hours every Sunday at a location to be determined by the court mediator. These visits will not include Mr. Deshaun Chambers under any circumstances. If you want full custody restored, you need to demonstrate stable housing, employment, and complete separation from Mr. Chambers. We'll revisit this in 6 months." The gavel came down like thunder. Tamika burst into tears. Her lawyer tried to comfort her, but she pushed him away and ran out of the courtroom. Part of me wanted to follow her. Part of me, the part that remembered standing in my yard surrounded by my scattered life, stayed seated. "Additionally," Judge Hamilton said, looking directly at me, "Mrs. Henderson, I'm granting you a restraining order against Mr. Chambers, as well as authorizing the district attorney to pursue criminal charges for elder abuse, illegal eviction, and property damage. That young man needs to learn that actions have consequences." We left the courthouse victorious, but I didn't feel like celebrating. Jasmine was quiet, processing everything. Cassandra was on her phone, already coordinating with the DA's office. "Lorraine," she said when she hung up, "they want to talk to you about pressing charges. This could mean real jail time for Deshaun." "Good," I said, and I meant it. Let him see what it's like to lose everything. That afternoon, 3 women from my church showed up at my door with furniture. Sister Patricia had rallied the congregation, and they'd collected everything I needed: a couch, chairs, a kitchen table, beds for both bedrooms, dishes, towels, everything. "We take care of our own," she said simply, hugging me tight. Nobody should have to start over alone. By evening, my house looked like a home again. Not the same home. The furniture was different. The arrangement was new. But it was mine. Truly mine. Jasmine and I made dinner together. Spaghetti and garlic bread. Nothing fancy. As we sat at our new table eating, I realized this was the first peaceful meal I'd had in months. No tension, no walking on eggshells, no making myself small. "Grandma?" Jasmine said quietly. "Do you think Mom will be okay?" "I don't know, baby. I hope so, but that's up to her now. She has to decide what kind of person she wants to be." My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. My heart jumped. Was it Deshaun? But when I opened it, I saw it was Tamika. "Mama, I'm sorry. For everything. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I need you to know I left him. I'm done with Deshaun. I filed a police report about everything he's been doing to you. I gave them videos from his phone that he didn't know I had. Videos of him throwing that brick. Videos of him laughing about the rat. Everything. He's going to jail, Mama, and I'm going to be better. I promise. I'm going to be the daughter you raised me to be. It might take time, but I'm going to prove it to you." I read the message 3 times, tears streaming down my face. "Is it Mom?" Jasmine asked. I handed her the phone. She read it, and her eyes got wet too. "Does this mean we can see her?" "Supervised visits," I said. "On Sundays, just like the judge said. But Jasmine, baby, we have to protect ourselves. We can forgive, but we don't forget. Not until she proves she's really changed." "I know," she said. "But at least it's a start, right?" "Yeah," I said, squeezing her hand. "It's a start." 2 weeks later, I sat in the DA's office watching security footage that Tamika had provided. Deshaun, clear as day, throwing that brick, laughing with his friends about teaching that old witch a lesson, planning more harassment, bragging about how he was going to make her pay for ruining his life. The DA, a serious woman named Michelle Robinson, looked at me across her desk. "With this evidence and the testimony from you, your daughter, and the neighbors, we're charging him with elder abuse, harassment, stalking, property damage, and making terroristic threats. He's looking at 3 to 5 years." "Good," I said. I'd said it a lot lately, and I meant it every time. The trial was fast. Deshawn's lawyer tried to argue that he was just upset about losing his home, but the video evidence was damning. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours. Guilty on all counts. I was in the courtroom when they read the verdict. Deshawn's face went from disbelief to rage to something that looked like despair. He looked at me once, really looked at me, and I saw him finally understand. You can't steal from people. You can't abuse them. You can't terrorize them, not without consequences. The judge sentenced him to 4 years, with parole possible after 2. Mr. Chambers, Judge Chen said, elder abuse is one of the most cowardly crimes in our society. You took advantage of a grieving widow's generosity, displaced her from her own home, and then terrorized her when she exercised her legal rights. I hope you use your time in prison to reflect on the kind of man you want to be. As they led him away in handcuffs, I felt something release in my chest, something I'd been holding on to for months. Fear, anger, hurt, betrayal. It all just let go. I was free. 3 months later, on a Sunday afternoon, Tamika came for her weekly visit. She'd been coming every week, supervised by a court mediator for the first month, then just me and Jasmine watching carefully for the second month. Now, in month 3, she seemed different, softer, more like the girl I'd raised. She'd gotten a job at the hospital as a billing clerk, found a small apartment near the bus line, started going to church again. Not my church, but a congregation on her side of town where nobody knew about the scandal. I'm in therapy, she told me that afternoon as we sat on my porch drinking sweet tea. Jasmine was inside doing homework. Court ordered at first, but now I'm going because I want to. Dr. Williams says I lost myself trying to please Deshawn, that I chose his approval over everything, over you, over Jasmine, over my own self-respect. And now? I asked. Now I'm learning to choose myself, to choose right. It's hard, Mama. Every day I wake up and have to forgive myself all over again for what I did to you. I was quiet for a long moment, watching the sun set over the neighborhood. The same neighborhood where Raymond and I had built our life, where we'd raised Tamika, where I'd thought I'd lost everything, and then found out I was stronger than I knew. I forgive you, I said finally. But Tamika, baby, forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean things go back to how they were. You hurt me deeper than I can explain. You stood there and watched him throw me out like garbage. I know, she whispered, tears rolling down her face. I know, and I'm so sorry. But, I continued, reaching over to take her hand, you're my daughter. You're Jasmine's mama, and you're trying to be better. That counts for something, so we'll take it slow. We'll rebuild. But this time, we do it the right way. With respect, with boundaries, with truth. She nodded, squeezing my hand. Thank you, Mama. I don't deserve it, but thank you. 6 months after that brick came through my window, I sat in my living room surrounded by my church family, my friends, and my granddaughter. Vera had organized a new beginning party, bringing food and laughter and music that filled the house Raymond and I had built with love. Tamika was there too, having finally earned unsupervised visits. She and Jasmine were in the kitchen making punch, and I could hear them laughing together. The sound made my heart full. You did good, Lorraine, Vera said, sitting beside me on the couch we'd picked out together. You stood up for yourself. You got your home back. You got your life back. I got my dignity back, I said. That's what matters most. And you taught that boy a lesson he won't forget. I hope so. I hope he comes out of prison better than he went in. But that's his journey now, not mine. Sister Patricia raised her glass of punch. A toast to Miss Lorraine, a woman who reminds us all that you're never too old to fight for what's yours. Never too old to demand respect. Never too old to start over. To Miss Lorraine, everyone echoed. As I looked around at these faces, some old friends, some new allies, all people who'd stood by me when I needed them most, I felt something I hadn't felt in over a year. Peace. Pure, complete, beautiful peace. Raymond would be proud, I thought. He'd always said I was the strongest woman he knew. I'd forgotten that for a while, lost in grief and loneliness and the need to not be alone. But I'd remembered. Or maybe I'd discovered a new kind of strength, the kind that comes from hitting rock bottom and deciding to climb back up. That night, after everyone left and Jasmine was asleep in her room, I stood in my bedroom and looked at the new window, the one that replaced the glass shattered by Deshawn's brick. Carlton had installed special security glass, the kind that doesn't break easy. Just like me, I thought. Not easy to break anymore. I picked up the framed photo of Raymond from my nightstand. "We did it, baby," I whispered to his smiling face. "We protected our home. We protected our family. And I'm going to be okay. I promise you, I'm going to be okay." The house settled around me, creaks and sighs that I'd known for 40 years. But this time, they sounded different. Not lonely, not frightening. They sounded like home. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and feel free to share your story in the comments. Your voice matters.